Hello again to all subscribers and listeners of this channel. Today will be a review of Attack on Titan Season 3, Episode 10, entitled Friends. It's pretty much a flashback episode, a very well-written flashback episode in my opinion. But I just want to give you guys a brief note. Just so you guys know, I had some medical procedures done last week, so this video actually should have been up last Monday or Tuesday, but I couldn't get to it. So therefore I had to postpone the posting of this particular video review until today. I'm feeling better now, so because of the delay, you guys will be getting both an episode 10 and episode 11 review earlier this week. But as far as this episode, this turned out to be a pretty profound episode where through Kenny's eyes we get to see a glimpse of what human beings decide is valuable in life when it comes to things like power and peace. Very intriguing episode indeed. But without any further ado, let's begin. First, my thoughts. My first thoughts were, I was thinking, so we're going to be getting a good flashback and breakdown of who Kenny Ackerman was and who he is and how he became what he was, right? And why he became what he became. And as far as I'm concerned, this episode didn't fail. In fact, I would argue that it went above and beyond when it came to showcasing some deep philosophical concepts. So let's dig in. As far as the plot, in this episode, we are greeted with a scene of Levi, meaning a soldier, right around where Rod Reese, giant turkey titan, or whatever you want to call it, crawled out of the ground. They're searching through the place looking for any survivors or whatever. And this other soldier relates to Levi that Kenny Ackerman is still alive. The scene then cuts away to the intro. And after the intro, we next see a younger Kenny Ackerman being grabbed by a huge titan arm of Yuri Reese, or Rice. Kenny struggles to get free, but to no avail. Soon, Yuri's brother, Rod Rice, comes in with a rifle and he's ready to shoot Kenny. Kenny quickly launches his dagger at Yuri, and Yuri blocks it with his arm. Surprisingly, Yuri, for whatever reason, puts Kenny down. Yuri and Rod get closer to Kenny as Kenny pulls out his own gun. Then even more surprisingly, Yuri bows to Kenny and apologizes for the sins that were committed against the Ackerman clan. Kenny and Yuri agree that Kenny shall now serve the Rice family. Next, we see Kenny walk in on his dead sister and her orphan son, Levi. Kenny decides to take a very young and malnourished Levi in and look after him. He spends time teaching Levi how to fight, steal, negotiate, and do everything else in order to scrape away a living in the underground city. Later, we see Kenny speaking with a younger Sanus, who is loyal to the king and to the Rice family. Soon after, we see Kenny and Yuri speaking by a lake about their odd yet very firm friendship. Yuri speaks of peace and his last days, whereas Kenny is wondering what it would be like to have that power. Enough power to bring peace to the world. Kenny then speaks to the future anti-personnel squad that he'll be captain of. He seems utterly intrigued by his future second-in-command, Shrout, after she speaks in response to his introduction. Kenny continues lamenting about not being able to view the world the way Yuri did. He asks himself if trash like him could attain the power to spread peace in the world the way Yuri tried to. That's what Kenny wanted more than anything. The power to see peace, and maybe even to spread peace to everyone once he'd obtained that level of power. Soon, we see Kenny in the current time covered in blood and badly burned, lying against a tree. Levi walks up and observes that Kenny doesn't have much time left. Kenny shows Levi the Titan serum that he stole from Rod Rice, but he admits that he was too scared to inject it himself. He was scared that he might turn into a giant Titan like Rod and become completely lost in himself, in his Titan form. Levi asks Kenny, who was the real king? And what was going on with the real king and the royal family? And Kenny basically tells him that he doesn't know. He doesn't really understand what's going on with the original king, King Fritz. Levi then asks Kenny who he really was and how he was connected to Levi's mother. Kenny tells him that Kenny Ackerman and Kuhel were brother and sister. So Kenny Ackerman is Levi's uncle. And lastly, Levi asks Kenny about what was going on when he left him. Why did he leave him when he was a teenager in the middle of the underground secret like that? And Kenny tells him that deep down, he was never ready to fill the role of being a father. He never wanted to step in to be someone's dad. And with that, Kenny gives Levi the Titan serum. He slumps back against the tree and dies. And we see Levi kneeling there with a surprised look on his face as now dead uncle, Kenny Ackerman. We cut to another scene. We see the coronation of Queen Historia, now Queen of the Walls. And in the next scene, we see Historia punching a smiling Levi. Mikasa is also smiling slightly. And it seems that the current Ackermans and Historia are going to get along just fine. Finally, we see Reiner Braun in his Titan form get knocked out by the Beast Titan. As the Beast Titan proclaims that they must continue their quest to find the coordinate by any means necessary. And the episode ends. Interesting things that I noticed. A few things that I thought were interesting. 1. Yuri Reese and Kenny Ackerman come from two very powerful and very specific bloodlines. Yet they're still opposites. Yuri is royalty, whereas Kenny lived his life in the underground as a criminal. Is it possible that there is some type of neural link between the two families? Could this link also be there between Historia, Levi, and Mikasa Ackerman? I would love to see a confirmation of this somehow by somebody. Maybe I'd check out Fox and Anime to see what he has to say. 2. Levi is one of the more stand-up characters in the entire series. Yet, he grew up poor, was an orphan, was the son of a prostitute who died when he was young. He was then raised by his uncle in the underground city, his uncle who was a mass murderer named or nicknamed Kenny the Ripper. So it's interesting to see how some of our favorite characters can come from some of the grimiest and most depressing and most messed up backgrounds. Yet is that hard life, that really messed up background that helped make that character so awesome in the first place. I really like the characterizations in the series so far. Very good characterization by Asayama Hajime. Number 3. Kenny Ackerman is actually profound and wise in a way that most people wouldn't have expected. Yet he seems to have knowledge of the human psyche that is far beyond what most people can't comprehend. Throughout his internal monologue, as far as I can see, there were 3 basic concepts that he kept going over and over with in his head. Everyone is a slave to something. People want peace, happiness, harmony. Yet, as far as Kenny could see, the only people who seemed like they could stand a chance of attaining those things, they had to have one major thing already, and that was power. Or at least that's how Kenny saw it. Was Kenny correct? Does one need to attain power in order to bring about ultimate peace? We don't know. Now, as far as the animation quality in this episode, animation throughout this episode was superb. That's all I had to say. Best thing about this episode was that we were able to see some very deep philosophical concepts through the eyes of someone named Kenny the Ripper. Very deep concepts from a relatively unexpected character, but deep concepts nonetheless that all of us should be thinking about as we journey through life. Worst about the episode, absolutely nothing to complain about in this episode at all. My favorite scene, as far as this episode goes, for me is a toss-up between Levi and Mikasa smiling as Historia punches Levi, or when Yuri and Kenny first met. The silhouette just before Yuri bows to Kenny was haunting yet very powerful looking, the way that was designed. And you're actually going to see that in this video. You're going to see one of the frames is going to be the silhouette of them facing each other for the first time. There's just something very intense about the way that was. Very beautifully drawn, though. As far as a 1 to 10 score, this is an episode that I feel genuinely gets a 10 out of 10. Beautifully drawn, well scripted, well written, with profound ideas about what human beings value woven beautifully into Kenny's monologue. Overall summary. Overall, I love this episode. The flashback of Yuri Reese and Kenny Ackerman becoming friends, the history of how Kenny met and then raised Levi in the underground city, how Kenny went from a hired murderer to a leader of a new anti-command squad or personnel squad. The special relationship that Kenny had with the Rice family, as well as his view on peace, power, and his ultimate life's wish, which was ultimately to see a world the way Yuri did. From Kenny and Levi's last conversation to Astoria's coronation, all the way until Levi gets punched by Astoria. Everything about this episode was just splendid. Absolutely loved it. And with that being said, that's all for now. Please like, subscribe, share, and donate to support this channel. You all have a nice day. I'm out. Peace.